What is up, y'all? Give me a second. What's up, y'all? What's up, y'all? Hold on one moment, please. Getting it together over here with technology. Y'all know how it is. So, I want to talk about body positivity because I think it's an interesting thing that's come up. And if y'all didn't see that Lizzo wrote, that she was coming off of Twitter for a little bit because it was getting so negative, right? And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But I did want to talk about body positivity because I feel like it's an interesting topic. And I don't quite know how I feel about it. Like, I try to stay out of things that are not like, in the realm of what I be normally talking about, stuff that gets me. But I feel like it's in the realm of intentional living. What's up? It's in the realm of intentional living and just thinking about like how we get to this place where we are so judgmental, and in particular about things that most of the time don't even matter. Okay, so like normally when I come on live, I have notes. Just so that I can kind of like remember my points and remember what I was planning to talk about. But I'll be honest, I don't even have any notes. So I'm hoping that we could just like have a conversation around what y'all feel like about this body positivity thing. And I'm using my air quotations, because I'm kind of feeling like it's problematic. But in a couple of different ways. So anyway, I don't know. I'm gonna just be talking about it a little bit. I won't be staying on long. I'm actually coming on way later than I normally come on because I had extra kids in the house. And y'all know with my 3 littles, it's already hard enough for me to like pull away and come on live. And so when I have other littles, then it's like impossible. So I had to wait until they left and went home. And so now I can jump on and talk with y'all, but I kind of wanted to just have this conversation. So I have like mixed reviews about Lizzo, right? First of all, when it comes to music, I am super old school, like super old school. I don't probably listen to nothing past like the early 2000s. That's just me. So I'm really not like particularly a Lizzo fan when it comes to her music, not because I feel like anything is necessarily wrong with her music, but I just don't listen to it. And so my daughter has a couple of her little songs playing. There's some catchy stuff or whatever, some stuff that'll make you bob your head. I know she has a couple albums out, but I really don't know that much about her. So I remember when she came out here to Denver, it was like, oh, Lizzo was in concert. And I was like, I don't even know who that is. So that just tells y'all where I sit at from a musical perspective. No clue. So I did go back and kind of listen to a couple of her songs just because I wanted to understand a little bit more about who she was and what she was talking about. I went back and listened to a couple of interviews with her. And that's part of why I want to kind of jump in and talk about her a little bit, because I just think that it's interesting that the idea around body positivity floats around like sexuality and how much of your body that you're willing to show to the world because you want to prove that you feel good about your body, right? And I did a little bit of digging in terms of like where this idea came from, where this movement has come from. But the reality of it is, it doesn't really seem easy to pinpoint. Some people kind of started with like way back over almost a century ago or over a century ago, when women were kind of expected to wear like corsets. And then there's not a lot of information in terms of like over on the continent of Africa, like were there issues around body positivity? And then also thinking about like differences in lifestyles. And so a lot of lifestyles, as things have changed, I think our bodies, I know that our bodies have changed, right? And so if you think about more indigenous communities where, the types of foods that we eat were not infused with hormones and, stuff that makes it taste a certain kind of way, and all types of just, dyes and flavors and, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for, but processed stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like people who weren't dealing with all that process stuff. So not only that, but also thinking about the way that societies lived, where it was a culture where, you just had to be more active, you had to do a lot more things. So I would imagine that the way that we are living right now is not the same as societies, lived. And so as things have been added on, it's like, okay, well, now we have all this stuff that contributes to a variety of issues that we face in our communities. And so, when you consider all of that, just in general, I think there's, we have to look at that. But I'm gonna put that to the side for just a second, because when we think about body positivity, or, I feel like what I've seen so far, body positivity tends to circulate around, in particular, fatness. Like, if you're fat, don't feel bad that you're fat. You should be body positive. You should feel good about, yourself at whatever size that you are, right? And I don't think that we're taking into account how many layers of body positivity there are. So now people are kind of bringing in colorism a little bit more. So like, if you're dark skinned, don't feel bad about being dark skinned. You should feel great in the skin you're in, right? And it's like, I'm trying to even understand, outside of like violent white racists. And then if y'all are like new to me and new to the channel, y'all know I really don't deal with like the term white supremacy. So from here on going forward, white supremacy equals violent white racists, because that's what they are. I don't, I feel like it's an interesting conversation when we deal with that, because from all sides that I can tell, like, the reason why we struggle with who we are and the way we look is around violent white racists, right? And so, first of all, I don't think most of us recognize the fact that every phenotype comes from the continent of Africa. And so that's important to say, the continent, because it's so big, it's so vast, there's so many different cultures. And we have to recognize light skin, dark skin, blonde hair, different color eyes, big lips, thin lips, different shaped noses, different shaped eyes, all of that, all phenotypes can be found in Africa. And I think that's important. Just because last week when I was on, there were some ignorant ass motherfuckers who came on here trying to talk about how I look and what I'm mixed with and all that type of stuff, which is ridiculous, because despite the fact that I am actually mixed with something, the idea that you would think I'm mixed just based off of certain features such as the shape of my eyes, which is ridiculous, because there are entire tribes and nations and things like that over on the continent that have eyes that are shaped like mine. And so it's the way that we tend to see ourselves and the way that we tend to see each other, and who put those types of thoughts on us, that instead of us thinking that we come from a certain part of the world or a certain type of tribe, that we tend to think, that something is more beautiful, something is not, something is mixed, something is pure, which if you're Black in America, you probably ain't pure of nothing, but that's a whole nother situation. So, So I just think that's interesting, right? And so then you have like layers of where body positivity comes from. You have layers of people who feel like they're too dark, people who feel like they're too light, people who feel like their hair is too kinky, people who feel like their hair is too straight, people who feel like they're too fat, people who feel like they're too thin. It's crazy, like, who puts these thoughts in us? And I feel like I'm guilty of it to a certain extent myself. Like, I recently, real recently, had to catch myself having a whole conversation with my daughter, because this girl don't want to do nothing physical at all. I'm like, you want to take a walk? She's like, nope. I'm like, you want to go to the gym? She's like, nope. So if y'all was on my Instagram, I posted a picture because I have my baby girl with me in the gym, and it's like pulling teeth. I had to pull her in there. And for me, that's a difference, because I've always been an athletic person. So I've always done sports. I was in the military. Like, I enjoy, working out or whatever to a great extent. And so, but it's just like, she don't want to do nothing. But this girl will tell you about all the sweets she loves. She loved cake. She loved, ice cream, she loves pastry, she loved macaroons, she loved cookies. I'll be like, and so right now she's a little, thin little girl, but I was telling her, like, you finna get you a pot belly, right? So anyway, I had to stop that, because I had to catch myself, like, her value the value that she places on herself and on her life is absolutely under no circumstances ever indicative of how big she is, how small she is, how light she is, how dark she is, the texture of her hair, or any of that. And so I think when I hear body positivity, what I want to hear is that we are concerned with who we are on the inside and being comfortable with who we are on the inside and letting that be a reflection of us on the outside. But the reality of it is that's not what I hear. The first thing that I really am hearing and seeing is that people are wanting, or in particular, people who are fatter, and I'm gonna say fatter because I'm gonna get to that in a second, but people who are fatter want to be seen as being normal or don't want to feel the sting of someone, calling them fat or someone talking about their weight and things like that. So now bringing that back to Lizzo. So I listened to this interview that she had and she was showing some pictures where she was younger. And for all intents and purposes, Lizzo has been big her whole life, right? And I think that's interesting because people will talk about a fat person without knowing anything about their history, anything about their actual health, anything about anything. And I think there are some people who you can very clearly see have an actual health problem. So, for example, you will see some people who are so morbidly obese that you would have to know at a minimum they have joint issues, because their joints, like they can't get upstairs, they can't get downstairs, they go from one room to another room, they can't breathe properly. If they lay down, like they can't lay down certain ways because the weight on their chest might suffocate. It's like there are definitely some people who are big enough that you can see that they have health issues, right? However, on the other side of that, I think it is a huge misconception to automatically assume that somebody who is heavy set or somebody who is fat automatically has health problems. That is just not accurate. I know plenty of fat people who have had full-blown workups and are, for all intents and purposes, healthy, right? And so they're maintaining a certain amount of fat on them. Now, when I'm saying for all intents and purposes, they're healthy, because a lot of times when it comes to holding weight, in particular in certain areas, we're looking at things like hormones, and all that is going to be tied to what we eat. You think you eating clean, you really can't eat clean. Your seeds come from someplace crazy. The soil ain't got no nutrients in it. I mean, it's just getting a bit ridiculous. But I'm confused as to why people always feel the need to go out and try and bash somebody for the way that they look, as though you have some sort of choice over the way that you look. And then on top of that, we base all of these associations off of European standards, off of violent white racist standards. So like I said, even when we take it all the way back, you could look at movements where you had these white women who were in corsets and they had to have all their insides squeezed together tightly in these corsets because for some reason you have men who feel like they want to judge a woman's waist. You have women over in parts of Asia who are binding their feet to the point where their feet are like decrepit and their bones are like broken in order for them to have small feet, because small feet was considered beautiful, right? And so when I start thinking through like the trends of beauty standards, it's amazing to me how many of these beauty standards are like physically and mentally and emotionally harmful to women. Can you imagine having your feet, like literally having your toes bound all the way under, your foot possibly broken, and then having to heel bound like this, and then you're walking forever? Like, you think they be taking them little tiny steps. They take them tiny ass steps because their feet are fucking broken. Like, that's a problem. That's over in Asia, right? In parts of Asia. You look at some where, you think about people who are elongating their necks or people who are pulling down their earlobes, right? You see a lot of that over in Africa and in parts of India. Over in America, then, as I was mentioning, or in Europe, you see people like pulling their organs together in these corsets, right? You see people bleaching their skin. And most of this is gauged towards women. We already know with relaxers, the type of damage that we've done to our hair and things like that. And now I'm seeing this rise of plastic surgery. Like, plastic surgery is on the rise. So on the one hand, I can commend somebody like Lizzo who is saying that I'm not going to get plastic surgery. I'm not going to get liposuction. I'm not going to get whatever. If you really look at her, she's a beautiful woman. She has an amazing voice. Like, I personally am not fond of her rap style. I mean, I haven't heard all her songs, but what I have heard doesn't impress me. But she's a beautiful woman, and I'm just confused as to why, like, we would feel the need to go on and attack her or each other. So I heard this whole little piece, like I saw, so I haven't watched any of the full videos that Dr. Watkins did on Lizzo or whatever, but I do know about the whole Lakers situation, or I don't know if it was the Lakers that she was at, but whatever game it was that she was at, where she had her ass hanging out, right? And so then this prompts the whole conversation. Once again, sparks a conversation around body positivity in the Black community. And then, I saw some of the titles. So I'm just going to say I did not go and watch all the videos, but I saw some of the titles where we're talking about, like, this is the new age minstrel show and things of that sort. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, why we attach our self-worth to the showing of to showing off our bodies. I feel like that part is definitely a problem. Like, being big or being small, why do we have to show out our entire body? Because in my opinion, in a lot of cases, Rihanna and Beyonce be showing off way too much, but we're less critical of them because their body type is more acceptable than Lizzo's body type. So I find that to just be, to me, interesting. But the reality of it is that, and white women do it too, but like, I'm not really concerned about what white women do. What are Black women doing? Why do Black women feel like the way to get attention is to show off your body? And so then there was this like beautiful post that I saw of these Muslim women, and they were gorgeous, right? But of course, like, they have the not the full hijab, like they didn't have their faces covered. They had their whole face revealed, but they had like all their hair covered or whatever. And I think the caption was like, you don't have to show your body to be, beautiful. But the reality of it is that most of us do feel like we have to show our bodies in order to be beautiful. Now, I just started getting back out on like a Friday and a Saturday night. I ain't been out in a minute. I didn't have me a couple of babies. My whole body is different. And I'll be honest, like, I'm struggling right now through a couple of issues on body positivity. Not that I've had anybody complain. However, it's something that is interesting to me because when I had my oldest daughter, like, one, I was in my early 20s. Two, I don't know if I would have gotten stretch marks at some point, but my oldest daughter was born 2.5 months early. So I didn't have a full-term pregnancy. So I had my daughter about 6.5 months. Not full term. I was like 21, and I bounced back pretty quickly. And so, bounce back or whatever to my younger self. But the first thing that I noticed, and I'm just going to get personal with me and what I got going on. The first thing I noticed was, after all my pumping and everything, I couldn't breastfeed my daughter. She was born too early, but I do believe very heavily in breastfeeding. So I pumped for my daughter. I pumped for about 6 months, is making sure that my daughter had breast milk. And so the first thing I noticed at like in my early 20s was like, oh, so my titties is going to be sagging. That's a problem to me because I'm still in my early 20s and I feel like, my body is one of my best assets. And this is stuff that we have promoted. And that's why I started off by saying I literally had to like shut my mouth. Like, I said it, and then later on, like, I chastised myself. I was like, I'm not ever going to talk to my daughter about her body in that way to make her feel like if she got bigger, got smaller, or whatever, because who is putting those thoughts in our heads? Like, if you got a little fat girl running around, and I'm talking about women, but it goes for men too. You got a little fat kid running around. That kid don't know nothing about nothing until somebody say they fat. And the reality of it is then when you have another little kid call a little kid fat, then where did they get that from? That's probably because they heard their mama be like, oh, that little fat kid, or they mama ain't feeding them right, or, and it's like this whole judgmental thing without ever even acknowledging the variety of different foods that we put into our body. Even if you try to give your kid the best, even when you try to do what's right, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be how your body responds, or the different types of hormonal things that happen to us, even before sometimes we realize like what's going on and how quickly things take effect, even to the point where we don't always even know that something is going on. I have a cousin right now who didn't even know she was pregnant until she was like 6-7 months pregnant. Like, literally, she thought that she was hitting early stage menopause because her and her husband didn't think they could have kids. So it wasn't just that she was just out of tune with her body. Like, when she didn't have her period, she knew what her age was. She knew that they had, weren't able to have kids, or supposedly weren't able to have kids. So in her mind, she just thought that menopause was like setting in, right? And so next thing you know, she goes to the doctor and finds out like, oh no, you have a whole baby in there. Like we could tell you the sex, we can look at the heart, like everything is going on, right? And so it's interesting because who knows what she had been feeding herself for 6 months without even knowing that she was pregnant. Just as an example, right? So I'm just saying, like, there are things that we do that we don't even know. I try not to eat a lot of sugar or whatever. So my sister hears me online while we're on the phone, and I'm ordering a sugar-free latte. And then my sister is like, "Oh, you might want to check what's in that sugar-free. You know, there's a lot of chemicals in there for it to still be sweet, and it's sugar-free." So here I am thinking I'm doing something good because I'm having something that's without sugar, and then she just informs me like, "Oh, by the way, all the way they make it, you know, sweet, there's a whole lot of stuff that's in there. So just check it." She didn't tell me, you know, nothing. She wasn't judgmental. She just was like, "I get you trying to go sugar free, but just check it." Right. So it's interesting because you never know the types of things at this day and age that we could be putting inside our. She dropped what the ingredients are in the sugar free. Thank you, girl. But that's my point. Is like, even when you think you're doing something good for yourself, you may not be doing something good for yourself, right? And so we don't know the different types of hormones and the different types of things that we're putting into our bodies, the different types of chemicals that cause all these different reactions, even at a young age. I'm so adamant about breastfeeding because I don't trust the chemicals inside of formula. But the reality is that there are some women who can't breastfeed, and for you to buy like breast milk, that's expensive. I know because when I had my daughter, my milk didn't come in. So, you know, your milk don't even come in right away anyway, but my daughter's weight was dropping and they wanted me to give her formula and I refused. So they were like, well, the other option is, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I got 3 kids upstairs and that bang made me want to go and see what's going on. All right. I think if something's going on, I'll be notified. But you know, I refuse to do the formula or whatever. So that's the first time that I even found out that you could get human milk or whatever. So no, girl, ain't nobody look. Now, what ain't nobody did was break into my house. I have a pit bull and a Staffordshire Terrier. And if you came into this house, now that pit bull, she's kind of a sweetheart, but that Staffordshire Terrier ain't no joke. And she will tear somebody up, especially with them babies. So no, ain't nobody broke into my house, but I don't know what that was. But I didn't hear mom, so I think I'm safe. So all right. So anyway, so I just feel like we're so judgmental as people that it really kills me, right? And so one of the things that I was looking at when I was kind of just researching, and I'm using the word researching lightly because really there's not a lot out on body positivity other than people's opinions, right? So it's kind of hard to research. There's not really a lot of true facts. There's data starting to come as the body positivity movement is continuing. So there's data starting to come around how people are feeling about themselves, what kind of mental, emotional breakdowns and all of that is starting to come out. There's not really a lot of like strong data and studies that have come out around this movement or this idea. But I will say that representation matters, but it's why do we need the type of representation that we're looking for? And so why do we need to have like big women show themselves off? Why do we need to have small women show themselves off? And so, you know, of course, if you're like promoting bras or underwear or something like that, but I think that we have to start holding some level, like the media, a little bit more accountable to what's even being put out there, because the messaging, in my opinion, is like, it's bullshit messaging. It's bullshit messaging. And that's why I said, like, I guess for the most part, it just has to do with intentionality. But I don't know. I mean, for whoever's on, you know, like, do y'all have any idea around what that means to you? Like, if you're big, if you're small, you know, is body positivity doing anything for you? Is it doing anything for us? Like, to discuss that? Because there was a point that I want to bring up, and that's why I normally have notes, because I don't like just rambling. But one of the things that kept catching my eye as I was reading these articles was people talking about what was normal. And then come to find out that the average size of women in America is a size 16. So like, but so the average size of women is size 16. However, what they're trying to say is that size 16 is considered plus size, and then there's only 7% of the clothes that's marketed to plus size women. So basically, the clothes arena is marketed towards women who are smaller, even though the average size woman is a 16. And in my opinion, from my size, a 16 is definitely on the heavier set side. So then when they keep saying these normal size women, I'm like, what the fuck is a normal size woman? At this stage of the game, like not what was 100 years ago, as I said, before all that bullshit they start putting in our food, like what is considered a normal size woman? And I am just kind of focusing on the women because I feel like the women get it. Like we don't be on here talking about men and their bodies like that. I just never see it. If you got a dude who's fat, like who's talking about Killer Mike size? I just want to know who's talking about that. So how come, Killer Mike can have his shirt off? Ain't nobody talking about that, but we gonna talk about Lizzo. Why is the focus always on women? That's like really disheartening, especially at a time when we're really trying to push like this women empowerment. Thank you. What about Rick Ross? Like, why? I mean, not to say, people don't recognize that they're fat, but I mean, it's not nearly on the same level as it is when a woman comes out. I mean, I remember, like you look at somebody like Monique. Monique is talented. You look at somebody like Missy Elliott. Missy Elliott is talented, and they've lost weight, and that's been good. But I think our focus should be a lot on our health, right? Right on stage with his belly out. What about oh God, Derek Grace, right? So Derek Grace is supposed to be on this weight loss kick, right? But he was on, I don't know if y'all follow him on Instagram, but this dude was just out with his big old belly out, just hanging out, like, yeah. And he had this bird chest with his big old belly, and it was like, put your shirt on. Because why? But I mean, as I said, ain't nobody telling Boris Cujo to put his shirt on. And that includes me. But, it's just like, anyway, I feel like it's interesting. I do feel like Lizzo took it too far at that basketball game. And it's not just that she took it too far at a basketball game, but it was kind of like, what was the point of that outfit? Where anywhere do they have an outfit with your ass hanging out? And why? And it really wouldn't have mattered who it was. But the reality is, had it been somebody like one of the Kardashians, I don't even like talking about them because for the obvious reasons, but like had it been a Kardashian or had it been Rihanna, had it been, Beyonce, would we have had the same type of reaction? So is it that she went too far because she's fat, or is it that she went too far because it was just absolutely an inappropriate outfit for the place? I don't even see why you would wear that to the club, personally. But I'm just saying, like, that's not something I would ever wear. But then y'all see how I be rocking. I always got a t-shirt on. I'm pretty laid back. This is like pretty much my regular look. I actually normally don't even really wear makeup unless I feel like I have somewhere to go. So y'all get the made up version of me, because the other version of me don't even, I walk around in t-shirts. All my t-shirts be basically branded. So like this one, I can't remember who did this one. This one, I'm 100% black chick. I can't remember who did this shirt right now, but like all my t-shirts be kind of branded or whatever. I'm just low key like that. But I also told y'all I was a minimalist. But I feel like it's just an interesting thing. Cause okay, so you saying she wanted attention. Right. Why do we have to be so naked to be body positive? So you saying that she wanted attention, but my thing about the attention too is that really body positivity? So if you feel like you need to have attention on your body, if you feel like you need to draw attention to your body in order for, in most cases, somebody to compliment you, who is body positivity for? I agree that we need to have a variety of people in media because representation matters, right? But And even when you have, like, I've never ever, and I always just, side eye any woman who's like, I dress like this for me, I go to the club like this, I have my ass hanging out for me. I'm like, you lying, sis. You just are. Like, there's not, what does that mean? Unless you dress like that in your own bedroom when you're just chilling at the house and you're doing dishes and you're cleaning your home and you're reading a book, chilling on the couch. Like, unless you're fully, face beat, nails done, lingerie on, or, corsets, outfits, midriff just hanging out. Like, unless that's how you dress, you walk around your house in heels. Like, unless that's how you dress at home all the time, when you step out, you're stepping out because you have a version of what looks good and you want people to acknowledge that you fit that mark or fit that model. So you said you hope they clean the chair. That's a hot mess. But exactly. So people wear that stuff to shows all the time, and it was really only an issue because she's fat. So, but my point in that is, whether you're fat or you're skinny, who is body positivity for? Because the reality is even these people who are thin and who look great, and that's why I was saying that it's a rise of the plastic surgery, right? Because people are not getting these bodies by hard work. They're not getting these bodies by eating right. They're surgically getting these bodies. A lot of them, not everyone. There are definitely some women who are in here putting in the work and their body is a natural body, but also their hormonal makeup is different. So that's why when you see somebody who then had a baby and 6 weeks later they bounce back, and you looking at yourself like, I'm still in my maternity clothes, like, that's the thing for, women as well. So I feel like the representation, I'm going to say that again, I really feel like the representation is very important. But how is body positivity tied to you needing somebody to recognize and see you in order for you to get that positive feedback? Because then who are you being positive for? Who do you need to have body positivity for if it's not for an internal thing? So it has to do something with the way that we are imaging, that we imagine ourselves, or the self-image that we have in our own head. Like, when you close your eyes, how do you think you look? Not despite how everybody else might think you look. How do you think you look? And do you feel good about the way that you think you look? And if not, what is it? Is it because you don't have Eurocentric features or whatever? Or is it because you don't have, European hair? Is it because you don't have so it's like, what is it about you or about a person that makes them feel like they're not good? And then you have to take that over into how you care for yourself, because that matters. Like, I have met some girls who are pretty and who stink. Like, sis, did you shower, or does your deodorant not work well for you? I have met some beautiful women who stink. Fish. Like, I'd be really wondering sometimes if people is taking care of themselves. So anyway, I'm just ranting. I'm just talking because I didn't even have no notes, but I just really want to talk about it. I did. And I want to talk about it because, like I said, just me kind of even feeling some kind of ways about myself. So I done had 3 kids now. The other 2 I carried all the way to term. So I had one early. I had one like right on time. I actually had her the day after she was due, but I went into labor the night she was due, and then I had her like early that morning. And then I had one who was a week late. So I've been on all sides of the spectrum, but I carried my other 2 to full term. And so now, like, I have stretch marks. I have probably about 15 more pounds that I want to lose in order for me to get back to like my pre-pregnancy weight. But when I finish losing these pounds, like, I feel like I need to figure out how I'm going to tighten up my skin, right? I've thought about getting a breast lift. I'm still pricing it out, thinking about it. And it's like I said, it's not like I have somebody coming and talking about me. I've not to this day had a man say anything crazy to my face. I just haven't. And not to say, I mean, for all I know, maybe they talking shit about me behind my back. I don't know. But I'll tell you what I've had to me. Like, no one has negatively said anything to me. This is about me and how I feel about me, how I imagine myself to look. And then when I look in the mirror, I'll be like, nope. That's not it. That ain't how you look. You're 35 now. You're not 22, and you look different, right? And so some of it is kids, some of it is just age, some of it is diet, some of it is exercise or lack thereof, right? I used to go running every morning. Once I had my first kid, well, really, she was my second kid, but y'all know, I have a 10-year gap. So I started all over. So once I had the first of my second set, once I had that kid, I was still able to get out. Like I was putting her in the stroller and I was going for a morning walk instead of a jog. But I was still getting out there. When I had my son, so I probably had, until a couple of weeks ago, I hadn't had like a morning walk or run in about 2.5 years. Because I was like, I'm not about to take both of these kids outside this early in the morning. And, I would go for runs at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't taking my kids out. I wasn't about to go through all of that, trying to bundle them up and that was too much. I wasn't trying to push that big ass stroller nowhere to get them kids out. So for the last couple of years, I haven't done that. So for me, it's been really a journey or issue of my health more so than anything else. So I went and got a blood panel done because I was struggling to lose a couple of these pounds. And I'm like, why, when I'm back in the gym, has this been so difficult for me? So I got a whole blood workup done. And come to find out that my thyroid is low and I'm missing a bunch of nutrients. So when I had two kids back to back, right? So my kids are 18 months apart. And I breastfed both of them. So when I decided to stop breastfeeding my son, actually before I stopped breastfeeding my son, I stopped taking all vitamins. Like it wasn't even intentional. It just like one day I didn't pick up a refill and then like I never went back to pick up a refill. So next thing I know, I didn't have any vitamins. So when I say I am all the way vitamin deficient, like my last blood test said that they couldn't even detect any vitamin D in my blood. They were like, your vitamin D is not on the chart. That's how bad that was. So for me, it's a big deal, right? And then you add that onto a slow thyroid, you add that on to low iron, you add that on to, vitamin B missing and, and a few other things like that. And it's like, when we're looking at someone, are we fully judging them for what they look like on the outside, or are we truly concerned about their health? Because then, once again, like I haven't heard the videos, but then like some of the titles, like Dr. Watkins tried to turn this around and start talking about things like, what was healthy, what wasn't. He acknowledged his journey about through obesity. I didn't watch the video, but he had a couple of posts where he was talking about that, where, he acknowledged that he had been overweight and that he had this whole journey to get himself down, right? And so it is very critical for us. Yes, it is. So I am just acknowledging that mine is like non-existent. So like I am taking my vitamins, and I actually am an outdoor person. So like natural vitamin D, I should be getting some of it. I go outside, but the reality of it is that's what my blood test showed. It showed that my vitamin D is like not even on the charts. That's how low it is. So, but for all, if you were to look at me, like I'm about one size away from where I want to be. I'm really pretty much sitting at a size 10. My ideal size for me is a size 8. So I'm not really sitting that far off. If you look at like early pictures of me, I was like a size 5'6", but also I have like no ass, no hips. Like I'm pretty narrow, I got small titties, small ass, small hips. I'm pretty narrow. That's my shape. So when I was a size 5'6", I felt like I was too skinny, right? But who told me I was too skinny? Who told me that? Like I had a complex about it because I felt like I was too thin. And I felt like if I could get to a size 8, maybe I would have at least some hips, something like that, right? I remember when I had my oldest daughter and I got pregnant, how I had at least 3 male friends be like, oh, well, when you get, when you start get into your second and third trimester, you're gonna have some hips and some ass, right? And it was like, I started looking forward to that. Like, who told me that any of that was attached to who I was or what I needed to be? And so I'm laughing because you said that's attached to my Asian genes. So now it could be, but I'll tell you this, I should find a picture of my mama, because I'll tell you what, my mom, who is the one who is half Japanese, I'm gonna see if I can find one real quick while I'm still talking, but my mom is thick. My mom got a small waist. So now my mom is now in her mid 60s, but my mom have a small waist, big hips, and she ain't gonna like that I said big ass, but that's what my mom has. My mom does not. I'll tell you what my mom don't have. My mom don't have a Asian size. It's all good. Like we straight, but I'm just saying, I don't know if this picture is going like actually it's fuzzy. Let me see if I can find another picture. But anyway, I'm gonna see if I can find just one of my mom, just because it is true. Like you think about certain things, like what somebody, if you think about Asian, like there's a certain type of body style, right? And so when you think about Black, like we think about a certain type of body style, and that wasn't the body style that I had. And so I had a whole little complex about it. Like I said, I'm not worried. You're not bothering me. But same thing with my sister. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show y'all this. Hold on. So you're not really gonna be able to see my mom yet, but I can show y'all my sister. Can y'all see that? So that's like my sister's shape. That's my sister. That's my mom. But my mom was like Pentecostal. So my mom for years wore all these skirts and stuff. It was a long time before my mom put on a pair of pants when I was growing up. But she would be mad too. Luckily, she don't watch me on YouTube because she would be mad. Like, don't be showing nobody. My mom would always wear these long, when she did start wearing jeans, she would always wear these long shirts because now she basically was embarrassed about how big her hips were and how big her butt was. But it was not because nobody was really talking about it. That's just how she felt about herself. So look, even from that standpoint, I can't even find no pictures where she's like really showing her body because she don't like to show her body. But anyway, I guess I can't find one. I thought I had one, but it's real fuzzy. So I was then, but anyway, like I said, I feel like it's I think my point that I was trying to make at least is that it doesn't really matter if we're thin or we're not thin. Like the fact that I had a complex about it, or the fact that I thought some way about being thin is really what the problem is. Like, who tells us that that's good, bad, indifferent, or whatever? And so that's kind of I was going at. Like I said, if you go back and look at some of Lizzo's baby pictures, and I don't know how many of them that she's showing, I just know the interview that I was watching with her where she was talking about, how she kind of got to the place where she is now is because people were always talking about her. Like for her whole life, people were talking about her weight. And so she showed a couple of pictures of herself when she was younger. And I'm like, she's always been a big girl, but we honestly don't know what caused her to be big. And so the fact that even as a child, she had this complex about herself is something that I really take up issue with, because I don't think any child should have a sort of a complex where they are feeling bad about themselves and thus feeling like the way that they look is attached to their self-worth. And that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that somewhere in there, somebody attached her size to her self-worth and taught that to her. But it's not just her. Like, that's a pretty standard thing. So I don't know, this might be the best picture I can show you of my mom, but and I don't know, so you can kind of see that's like going to be the closest thing I could find where she is just like showing herself, because my mom don't really show her body. But you can kind of see my mom is not shaped like an Asian woman. I am more shaped like an Asian woman than my mom is. but it's just, to me, like I said, it's just an interesting thing because we do that to ourselves. And so I guess what I'm gonna close out on is this: when it comes just thinking about intentional living and thinking about when we talk about, so I talk about a lot of things like legacy. Is my mom single? Nope. My parents have been married for 38 years. Or are you talking about Lizzo single? I don't know if Lizzo is single or not. But if you was asking about my mom or my sister's been married for, I think, 11 years. How old is my daughter? My daughter is about to be 14. So my sister is probably coming up on 12 years of marriage, I think. And my mother and father have been married for 38 years. This year, 2020, will be 39 years for them. So, yeah. So there's that. But I guess I'm gonna just kind of like end on this, because here's what I feel like at the end of the day. I don't feel like this body positivity movement is working for Black people. I do feel like greater representation is working for us, because then our kids get to see something that looks like them. And I think that's important, whether that's skin, hair texture. We do need to do something about these facial features, because all these dolls still have Eurocentric facial features. Okay. Ain't no doll, like even when you look at dark skinned Black women and talk about how beautiful they are, if you really look at most of them, you're still looking at the thin nose. Like, you know, sometimes they got the big lips, but they definitely, like, rarely are you seeing like wider nose Black women be idolized like that, in that way. And so, and a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times they're still wearing like straight hair or the weave, or, you know, permed hair or whatever, right? So we still have this issue where we're idolizing like Eurocentric features. But I think when we talk about you know, like looking at legacy and things like that, I think we need to also consider how we go forward in the way that we talk to our kids, about our kids, because when we think about them moving on, and we think about not instilling in them the same bullshit that has been instilled in us, whether it's through media, whether it's through our homes, and whether it's through the school system, whatever that needs to look like, I think we have to be more intentional about what type of messaging we're feeding our kids about who they are, and about their self-worth. Their self-worth should not be attached to anything at all. You are worth it because you are alive. You have a soul and a spirit. You have a consciousness. You have a gift, you have a talent, you have something that is in you. And we don't spend enough time bringing those things out before we start critiquing everything physical about our children. And that has bothered me forever and for all times. Like, there are definitely kids that are born that are like not all that cute. You see a baby that ain't like, something ain't matching up, and you be like, ooh, your baby is cute. But even from that standpoint, like, we have to stop that. People was talking about Blue Ivy when this girl, you know, was 2-3 months old, whenever they first showed her. I mean, it's just like, literally, we instantly go for this physical critique, and we try to attach that to who a person is, what everything from how much they get paid, what types of jobs they can have, like who they put on the, you know, the news, what types of roles they get. I mean, it just gets to be ridiculous. So how about when we start thinking about legacy, and we start thinking about the next generation? We definitely should be thinking about generational wealth. That part is obvious. But how do we start thinking about how we feed our children for the next generation? How do we start making sure that they actually feel empowered? Not empowered to go and show their body off, but like empowered to know that they are worth something because they are who they are, period. No matter what's happening on the outside. We are trying to copy people who are trying to copy us. That's kind of insane, right? But you know, when it comes to stuff that from a mental perspective, I just try to highlight it, because I feel like we've had so many years of damage. It really isn't our fault that it is that way, but then once you recognize it, it is your responsibility to change it. And so I started off by saying what I said to my own daughter. I have acknowledged my own insecurities. You know, it's like, you have to start with acknowledging where you yourself may be part of the problem, and then begin to change that. Like, how do we not go in and critique our homegirls or our homeboys based off their image? And then thinking about just overall having respect, because what I saw with Lizzo at that basketball game was really just a lack of respect for herself. For someone who has worked so hard to come out of her own head, to come out of hearing all the voices that have chastised her and teased her for her whole life, she's still seeking some level of approval. So there's still things that she has to heal from. And she's just not the only one. She's just someone who's public about it. Because that whole display was an attempt to get attention. It was an attempt to show the world that I'm good with me. And for you to have to show the world that you're good with you, or for your version of being good with you, meaning that you now have to show off all of your body in a completely sexual way, says that you're really not good with you. So to me, there's still a lot of healing that she has to go through. And I applaud her for taking the steps, because it does take a lot for someone who has been teased and chastised about anything for their whole life to then turn around and try to make that a point of positivity in their life. I just feel like she still has work to do, but she's just not the only one. She's just a public face. So we have to really think, and what you're saying is exactly what I was pointing out. We have to really think about someone's actual health. Now, y'all could talk about her all she wants to. That girl could get down and dance. And so with all of that dancing and moving and stuff that she's doing, she's probably not as unhealthy as y'all would want to think. I would be willing to say that she probably has a decent workout regimen. So there probably is something hormonal that is going on or has been going on with her since childhood that probably isn't diagnosed or hasn't really been looked at. Because naturally, when you're fat, people just think that you're just a pig, or that you're not, that you don't never work out. But the fact that she can do all them dances and that, that's rehearsal time and this and that and the other. I knew this one girl who was big, and this is my last story, I swear. When I used to play soccer, so like I said, I've always played sports. So when I was in elementary school, I played soccer. I wish I could remember this girl's name, but this girl was a big girl. She definitely was. She knew she was big and all of that. But when I tell you that this girl could outrun your skinny ass child any day of the week, this girl was fast. Like, she was literally one of the fastest girls on the team, and she was big, and she would be running, like, you would be looking shocked at how quickly she could get down. And it was bad because you could hear parents talking about it. Like, we would play different teams, so you're gonna come across different parents, and it was like every week there would be some parent who'd be like, oh, well, she's really fast for such a big girl, or for such a chunky girl. And some of them would be just rude, like, how is that kid so fat and running so quick? Like, it was bad. But that's the type of thing that happens with us as adults, and those are the type of insecurities that adults have and then put in a kid. That's why I said I could never ever say something like that to my kid again, because once I realized it, I'm like, I would not put those type of insecurities in her. They're not gonna come from me. Now, she might see a whole lot, but they're not gonna come from me. So I had to really think that situation through. But it's amazing to me how many people who are heavy set, who will go and get a workup done at the doctor's and basically be given a clean bill of health. And now granted, because we're not always digging in hormonally, but from the standpoint of their heart is good, their blood pressure is fine, their pulse ox is straight. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're straight. They're not having no pains in their joints. They sleep fine. They don't got sleep apnea. They don't have no real major health issues that are apparent to to a basic workup. So we have to start thinking about how healthy somebody is and how healthy you are, because I know some skinny people who have a lot of health issues. I just mentioned some of my own. Now, I don't consider myself to be skinny, but I definitely don't consider myself to be just like ginormous, right? So I know I just listed out what some of my own health issues are. So your size and your appearance right off the back is not indicative of how healthy you are. You need to be able to look at things like your nails, which most of the time us women, we got ours covered up. We can't even see our nails. Looking at your hair, looking at your skin, being able to, for instance, if you have a bad body odor, like you wash yourself and you still got a body odor, like you may have an issue that's going on. You can have something going on with your mouth. You could be brushing your teeth and still walk out and be like, God damn, like what is going? So we have to really be more aware of what's going on from a health perspective and think about body positivity in a way that is healthy, physically and emotionally, and not just an aesthetic appearance, and the particular aesthetics that come from violent white racists. So don't even get me started on food and vaccines. I talked about that in the beginning of the video. But anyway, y'all, I'm getting ready to jump off and go put my littles in the bed, go check out what crashed in my house. Because like I said, I didn't get no call. So I feel like everything is fine, but you never know. But I'm going to go check out what's going on in my house. And I am going to be back on Thursday. Now, I started the podcast back. So if you didn't catch last week's episode, go ahead and tune into that. And then just know that tomorrow there is a new episode of the podcast, Boss Up with BBI, that's dropping. So that'll be out tomorrow. If you're not familiar with that, that is not live. That is pre-recorded, but I will be dropping that episode. And we have some good topics that'll be coming up over the next couple of weeks that I'm kind of excited about. Health is one of them. And then I will be back on Thursday. Also, y'all hold up some prayer for my girl Shay J. So y'all may have seen her yesterday. So as I think I mentioned to y'all already that I will not be the only face that's coming on this channel anymore. We have changed to CTN, or Changing the Narrative Media. And so we will have some other content creators that are coming on. So my girl Shay J has been on. Y'all give it up for her, because when I tell you, it is like, I'll be having to pep talk her to go live, because she does not normally just go live. And she's like, you just want me to click and start talking? I'm like, yeah, girl, get on there. So anyway, but hold her up in prayer, y'all. So she has a health issue going on with herself right now. They don't know what the issue is. I'm not putting out all of her or any of her real business, but all I'm going to say is she is trying to diagnose what is going on. She was having a hard time today. So hopefully she will be on tomorrow. I do not know for a fact if she will be on tomorrow, but lift her up in prayer, send her positive energy. Y'all got some crystals. Y'all got light a candle, okay, sage, Palo Santo, and all of that, whatever it is that you believe. Put that energy towards our girl Shay, and hopefully she'll be on tomorrow. But I will for sure drop the podcast tomorrow, and then I'll be back on Thursday. All right, y'all. So this is CTN Media, Changing the Narrative Media. I'm your girl Jice, and I will check y'all later.